Hello ladies and gentlemen and welcome to the Music Den. I'm Kumerai Fang and I know I'm late to the ballgame on this one, but it's finally time I talk about the new studio album from Black Veil Brides, Vale. I have a history with this band and I've gone on record saying that I love them. Wretched and Divine Story of the Wild Ones was a breath of fresh air compared to all the rock music I heard back in 2013, and it is bar none my favorite Black Veil Brides album. I went on to listen to their previous releases, and when their fourth studio album went on pre-sale, I bought the largest fan bundle I could. And as I predicted when I reviewed The Outsider last year, I ended up buying their latest album on pre-sale. It's signed by all the band members. How could I not? That all being said, I was a little concerned about this project heading into it. To start, frontman Andy Biersack said that this would bridge the gap between Wretched and Divine and 4, their two previous albums. And where I love the former, 4 is, in my opinion, the worst Black Veil Brides album released so far. There were some decent gems on that album, but most of it ranged from uninteresting to underwhelming to shit. I'm a fan of this band. It takes a lot for me to say that. So hearing that my favorite and least favorite album by this band were going to meet somewhere in the middle made me more than a little uneasy. And that feeling did not improve with the release of The Outsider. It's a 4 out of 10 at best. It has great instrumentation, but Andy's vocals don't match with the tone of the song. The chorus is horribly mixed. The vocals were placed higher in the mix than the instrumentation, and by effect, not only did it lose balance, but it made the vocals sound like this compact ball of noise. And that's before the bridge after the second chorus, which to me was the biggest offense the song had. With the breakdown of the guitars and Andy singing the first few lines of the chorus, I was immediately reminded of the bridge to Coffin off the Rebels EP. Now, I like Coffin, but I was never a fan of that part of the song. The only reason I could find enjoyment in it is because Coffin had this level of intensity that could make up for it. The Outsider, on the other hand, was an underwhelming listen, and I haven't sought it out much since I reviewed it. Subsequent song releases did make me calm down a little. My Vow's punching guitars and fast-paced verses hyped me up in an instant. And even though the chorus does slow things down a little bit, I love that we just jump straight into it, and I especially love that guitar solo. When They Call My Name is an odd rock ballad-esque kind of song with trace pop elements that I wasn't expecting. But unlike previous songs in this vein, such as Walk Away and Lost It All, the song moves at a pace where it does still feel like a rock ballad, but not at a pace where it feels like it's dragging its feet. It helped that, unlike those songs, it had musical elements chiming in and picking up before the second chorus. Finally, there was the last one, which started with this tense piano melody before shifting into much harder riffs. The introduction alone is amazing, but what genuinely surprised me about it was that Ash Purdy was given a few moments where his bass could stand out against the punching guitars and the drums. Yeah, that doesn't happen very often. Granted, it was only for a few seconds. It was a good way to heighten up the tone of the song. I can keep going back to it for the introduction alone. Both this and When They Call My Name managed to surprise me in another way, something that I wanted to hear on their last album, but didn't get to. Orchestral elements from guitarist Jinx. I loved the strings and the piano on Wretched and Divine, so hearing them come back made me immediately happy. It gave me hope that I would actually enjoy this project. But then again, Goodbye Agony made me think that 4 was going to be a good record, and look what that got me. So how'd the guys do this time? Well, overall musically, they did pretty fucking well. They matched just enough of the theatrics from Wretched and Divine with the intense, hard-hitting instrumentation from 4. The mix is surprisingly effective. Granted, not all of them keep things split straight down the middle. Some of them leaned a bit more towards the theatrics. Take Wake Up, for example. I refer to this as the In the End of the album. The big single that the radio loves, that die-hard fans might say sucks in a few years from now, and of course became the monster lead single that got released with a better music video than some people may think it deserves. The song's less than 3 minutes long, but it's fast-paced with punching guitars, powerful drums, and a strong vocal delivery throughout. It only slows down for the verses, and even then, that's only slightly. The second the chorus kicks in, it takes you on a ride. The semi-final chorus is when I dubbed it the In the End of the album. Because like its predecessor, Wake Up's main melodies all stop at the semi-final chorus, save for the drums and some guitars for ambiance. The first few lines of the chorus is sung, and then the main melody comes straight back in. In my opinion, it's actually a lot more satisfying here than it was on In the End, but that's mainly because we just jump right back into things. Other songs on the album meet with more heavy riffs, such as Throw the First Stone. There are some theatrical lyrics, but Andy's vocals are played a lot more straight, and the music does remind me of several of the moments on 4. And I'd argue that was for better. That's not to say every decision made for this album was that way. Music has always been Black Veil Bride's strong suit, and it's always been something I tend not to worry about, but there are exceptions. Most times it's when songs are a little slower than usual. This is because the guys have a habit of stripping back their instrumentation and putting primary focus on their lead singer. Past titles include the aforementioned Lost It All and Walk Away, alongside Done For You and Savior. Now, this is not inherently a bad thing, Andy's a good singer after all, but the problem is that when the guys strip back their instrumentation, the production can feel very empty, and by effect, there's not much supporting Andy's voice. Which isn't a huge issue, they do this to set the mood after all, but the problem lies when the second of these two issues shows up. And as it just so happens, when things slow down, Andy Biersack can be a very hit-or-miss kind of vocalist. Meaning at his best, his delivery is passable to even good, see Lost It All and Walk Away, but at his worst, like on Savior, he has this nasal kind of delivery to him that is just unflattering in every way. Now, from listening to their discography, I can tell you that Andy has improved on this problem over the years. And on this album especially, the music to these songs have much fuller production to them. Our Destiny, The King of Pain, even Vale, This Is Where It Ends, which is an acoustic song for that matter, does sound like it has a lot more full production. There's no empty space here. I wasn't expecting to hear any of that. Which would probably explain why Ballad of the Lonely Hearts was such a slap to the face. Like the songs I mentioned before, it has lush and beautiful production. However, the rest of the song just hurts because it epitomizes everything that this band gets criticized for. I don't expect to have overly complex topics with Black Veil Brides, that's not their appeal to me. What I do expect is to not have a chorus that undermines the rest of the song's instrumentation, and, especially now, I expect a good vocal delivery from Andy Biersack. That last bit is a particular problem here, because not only does Andy have that nasal delivery that I can't stand from him, but he also has this stiff and stilted vocal melody to work with, which is very unflattering. Those elements alone remind me of Bully by Shinedown, and I have always loathed that song. Granted, this problem is only in the verses and the instrumentation is far better, there is another problem with this song that far supersedes anything else. A rather prevalent problem on this album, that being the production, particularly with the vocals. When I first heard The Outsider and heard how badly mixed the chorus was, I knew that this would be a problem on the record, and yeah, that prediction came true, but not in the way that I predicted. You see, along with experimenting with pop elements, they also experimented with vocal effects, and where I think most of that paid off, some of them were just not as good. My Vow, for example, uses them to add grit to Andy's voice throughout the verses. And where I like it just fine, the first few times I heard this song, I thought there was something wrong with my speakers. Because, as it just so happened, these vocal effects sounded like audio spikes, and it just didn't sound right. Another example would be Throw the First Stone. Like My Vow, there are effects on Andy's vocals, though not near as bad as the ones that are on My Vows. But I didn't enjoy them all that much. In fact, there was a bridge in this song that Andy has clean vocals with no effects on them that I enjoy far more than the verses. But okay, that's just the music. How does the writing hold up? Actually, it's a bit more interesting this time around. You see, the title of this album is Latin for goodbye, and Andy Biersack went on record saying that the theme of the album was about moving on. Which may not sound like much, but Black Veil Brides have basically become the self-empowerment band of the rock scene. So hearing them branch out even a little bit is the sign of something different and much more interesting to come. And yeah, I think they did alright. It's still the basic writing I've come to expect from the band. The King of Pain is about finding passion when life is just running its course. Dead Man Walking, Overture 2, is about learning from past mistakes and trying to do better for the future. This is nothing phenomenal, nor is it written outside of the standard and admittedly watered down fashion that I've come to know the script for. What is different is how they've gone about writing this standard material, and bear with me for a few minutes. First off, the guys have backed off the Christian imagery a lot. I hear sprinkles of it here and there, but outside of The Outsider, I'm not hit with a lot of it. Hell, I barely notice it when it comes up. First few listens, I actually thought it was almost completely gone. I think part of the reason this happened is because Andy made solo material a few years ago. It's also the reason that there are pop elements on this song, but hey, no complaints here. I like the Shadow Side. I think it's also because this album is kind of a sequel to Wretched and Divine Story of the Wild Ones, and I say kind of for a few reasons. The album starts with a voiceover by Andy Biersack as his character, the Prophet. Also throughout the album, fear is brought up a lot. And for those who don't know, fear is an acronym as well as the main antagonist from Wretched and Divine, hence the kind of sequel. However, this album is not a continuation after the rebels defeat their enemies. This is not a new story being told. The concept seems to be more of the aftermath, you know? We fought, we won, we move forward. And honestly, I think that's one of, if not the best way they could have gone about making a sequel to Wretched and Divine. I also think it's the only time they'll be continuing from that album. Vale, This Is Where It Ends is the last track of the album and is a good send-off. Not only just as a promise to not focus on the past, but also as a final goodbye to the Wretched and Divine era. This is where the band and the narrator can now move on. So with that, how'd the guys do? Well, they did a lot better than I thought they would. Hearing this after their fourth album was such a relief to me. It reminded me of all the reasons I got into the band, and I really enjoyed it. However, I would hesitate before I'd call this a good album. I enjoy most of it, but there are some things here that just didn't work. Also, I'm aware that when a new album of Black Veil Brides comes out, I have a tendency to ride the album hype, and as time moves forward, I can find songs that I don't like and can pick apart what's wrong with them very quickly. That's what happened with 4, and it's already beginning to happen here. Although, it was close to being good. I give Vale a 6.5 out of 10. Say what you will, but the music holds up extremely well, the production is better than I anticipated, thank God. And the writing, as basic as it's always been, doesn't need to be more than that for me to enjoy Black Veil Brides. I always have fun whenever I listen to them, and if you're looking for the same, then I can definitely say that they won't let you down here. The worst song is Ballad of the Lonely Hearts, no questions asked. The vocals are terrible, the melodies are stiff, and they reminded me of the worst Shinedown song quite possibly in existence. And the best, that's a tough call, but I think I gotta give it to Dead Man Walking Overture 2. It gets weirdly atmospheric at times, and when they show up, they're actually gorgeous. Plus, I could never say no to Jinx's orchestral medleys. I'm so happy they gave him another chance to show off here, and they even gave him more time than they did on Wretched and Divine. I gotta give an honorable mention to Wake Up, though. It's arguably the song I've listened to the most from this album, and I am pumped up every time I hear it. And with that, we're done. I'll be leaving links in the description for you guys to check the album out, or, if you already have, tell me what you think of it in the comment section down below. As for me, Top 20 Ranked for Winter is coming up next, alongside my last 2 year-end lists for 2017. But, until then, signing off the Music Den, I'm Kumerai Fang, off to hunt my next prey. I never said that this would be easy.